This segment brought to you by Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture. To join today or more information, go to kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Well, I'm just drying my dishes here. A couple of these. This is isn't that pretty? That's actually a pattern. I think maybe that's the hazel pattern. My granny had a bowl like that. And then here's one of my favorites. This is a Homer Laughlin. Homer Laughlin was a pottery, China factory. Started in 1871 in Ohio and then went across the river and founded the town of Newell, West Virginia, just so they could keep making it. There's another one. They were making china for real people, people who just ordinary housewives. And I started to do a segment. There's another Homer Laughlin. I just can't pass those up when I see them. I was going to do a segment on Homer Laughlin, and then I got to thinking about why I collect these pieces. You can see the dishes behind me. I'm always picking up china. I can't pass it up. And most of this stuff has no real value, no inherent value, but it's got a lot of sentimental value. So instead, I got to thinking about why this stuff matters to me. And I think, like many of you who collect, there's a real personal connection to some of these things. And that's what I'm sharing with you.
The dinner tables of my childhood were works of art. There was no fine linen, no crystal, no silver candlesticks, but there were bowls with rose patterns and wheat stalk and ears of corn. There were white platters that were tinged brown from being warmed in the wood cook stove. Little chips on the edges bespoke decades of such meals. These bowls were filled with pinto beans, stewed potatoes, green beans, fried cabbage, fried sweet potatoes, salt pickles, dill pickles, chow, fried squash, corn, biscuits, and cornbread. Every meal was a sit-down meal: breakfast, dinner, and supper. Breakfast meant Grandpa's rising about 4 a.m. and building a fire in the cook stove. He would come back to bed, and an hour or so later, when the fire had warmed the kitchen, Granny rose. Her hair hung in a long braid down her back, and in her nightdress and housecoat, she took out her dough board and made biscuits. Sometimes she took bits of dough and shaped them into bears or babies in bunting bags and baked them for me. She put the coffee on to perk, an old aluminum coffee pot set on the wood stove with the basket full to the brim of Louisiana coffee. This was not coffee for the weak. It was coffee that you could stand your spoon in. When the biscuits and coffee were done, Grandpa got up again, and Granny dressed, and we had breakfast. Often eggs with red-eye gravy, and Grandpa took down his little cast-iron skillet and made his own eggs. After decades of life together, I'm not sure Granny could cook those eggs to suit him. The coffee cups always had saucers, because the hot coffee was poured into the saucer to cool, and Grandpa drank from the saucer, as was the custom with a lot of mountain folks. The dishes were then washed and put away, and Granny went about her morning chores, feeding chickens, gardening, and then making dinner. Thus each day was spent. Granny's kitchen was the center of my life. It was nurturing and creative, sanctuary and refuge. Today, when I go through antique stores and thrift sales, I spy some of those 1930s and 40s dishes Granny was still using when I was a child, and I cannot resist their tugs at my heart. I rescue them and bring them home, and I use them. More often than not, our meals are not sit-down affairs. Rather, they are filling a plate and plopping in front of the television. But when I see those bowls and plates, cups and saucers, I see the patterns of my childhood, patterns of love and warmth. I see my Granny filling them, washing them, stacking them in the cupboard, and I am once more in her kitchen.
Folks, thank you so much for joining me on Around Kansas this morning. Be sure you like our Facebook page and follow us, and we share a few other things, and we share some pretty amazing photographs there too, so we'd love to see yours, and especially storm season. One of the good things about storm season, man, we get some fantastic photos, and we love seeing those. So, finish your coffee. We'll see you somewhere around Kansas.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com.
Ripe tomatoes, hand-churned homemade ice cream. Let me tell you, Kansas is more than tornadoes. We're the best part